Let me show you how I turn this tall, flat base coat into a gritty and richly detailed Grimdark miniature, using techniques so simple they almost feel like cheating. We will be starting with my signature oil chop method, a fast, powerful approach for gloomy shadows. But this time we are taking it further, adding advanced details. So stick around to see just how far you can push your paint job with minimal effort and no fine brushwork. The transformation begins with a custom oil wash. I'm mixing raw sienna, green and a touch of black. This blend creates a dirty, green-tinged tone perfect for setting a grimdark atmosphere. To thin it down, I'm using odorless white spirits. You can find these at most art stores, and are much less harsh to work with than the hardware store alternatives. This is not a subtle wash. It's thick and rich, and I apply it across the whole model. It stains everything, even the raised details. And that's by design. The staining is crucial for what comes next. Once the model is fully covered, set it aside to rest, about 20 to 30 minutes, just enough time for the solvent to evaporate. Now comes the magic. With a makeup sponge, I'll gently lift the oils off the raised surfaces. And no, I do not varnish before this step. You don't need to as long as you're gentle. The sponge naturally avoids recesses due to its size, perfect for keeping those deep shadows intact. But don't press too hard or you'll risk damaging the base coat. What we want is a soft pass that cleans the raised details while keeping the shadows untouched. Don't worry about any areas that are hard to reach with a sponge. Not only will they end up as shadows, but once we start adding detail to the model, the attention of the viewer will be pulled away from them. So just focus on cleaning the model as best as the tool allows you to. There is a huge difference already with what we began with. For the stubborn layer of oil still present on the raised areas, I switched to a Q-tip dipped in white spirits, though I offload most of the solvent before touching the model. Then, using small pokes and gentle rolling motions, I clean just the areas I want to brighten. Never drag the Q-tip, that's how you risk damaging your base coat. Once again, this tool is too big to get into the recesses. This is where the oil chop method allows us to modulate lights and shadows with a final targeted cleaning, and rolling a Q-tip around is much simpler than keeping a steady hand while highlighting an edge, making this a stress-free painting experience. Everything thus far is the oil chop method, my go-to for a fast grimdark basework. But let's go deeper. Right now, the armor looks too uniform, so I'm tearing a bit of sponge to do some chipping. After spreading paint thinly on the palette, dab just a little onto the sponge, and unload any excess. Now gently tap the armor. This creates tiny random chips and dings, instantly adding complexity. But don't press too hard, or the chips will become big splotches. Be careful not to overdo this. The chips can build up into larger blobs, which would kill the look we're after. Start off with the areas that would see the most wear, like the feet, knees and shoulders, before moving on to the rest of the model. And remember, the sponge won't reach into the recesses, so your shadows will remain untouched. Edge highlighting will happen naturally. I will be adding some extra detail to the armor later on, but for now let's move on to the sword, which I want to be heavily rusted. I'll be using pigments here, but if you don't have any, you'll find a full rust effect tutorial using only acrylics linked in the description. I mix the pigments with 2 parts water and 1 part IPA. This creates a wash that I'll apply all over the blade. I further tint this base with increasing amounts of yellow pigment. The lighter colors are applied in the form of random dabs and dashes. Pigments can provide us with the best rust texture, dry, dusty and natural, but they must be sealed with matte varnish to work over them. Once I have created a colorful rust-like surface, I'll go back to the sponge. However, this time, instead of poking to create chips, I want to drag it to create scratches, which would be a pain to do with the brush, but takes seconds using the sponge. However, be careful. Just like with the chips, we don't want to push down too hard. Go slowly and don't panic if the paint doesn't seem to catch on the surface. Instead of pushing harder down, work new paint into the sponge. Remove the excess with some taps on the palette and try again, pressing down just a little. This is how you will get the thinnest scratches. If you're finding this video helpful, a like or a comment really helps me out. And if you don't want to miss out the next tutorial, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. The sponge will also highlight the transition between the flat areas and the edges of the blade, defining its shape in the process. A light silver can also be used to add a few sharp scratches on the armor, but once again, go easy. Less is more. The armor, while detailed, still feels chromatically flat. To fix that, I'll use an oil wash to create a subtle rusty look. Because of its low surface tension, the paint runs through the recesses with a simple touch of the brush, as shown in this example where I showcase the benefits of pin washing with oil paints. This, however, was only half working this time, probably due to the coat of matte varnish I applied in between the pigments and the sponging. This model is one of the unlocked stretch goals from Dakada's Torquemada Inquisition Kickstarter, the same range I featured when first introducing the old chop technique. If Spanish conquistadors meet World War I sounds like your kind of setting, check the description for a link to the full collection. To finish off, I'll show you how to create the rust tricks. I apply a little bit of oil into the larger dents, then clean my brush in solvent, again offloading most of it. Dragging down gently creates streaks with a soft, natural fading. You can shape and control the streaks with a damp brush for added realism. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. I hope the techniques in the video help you push your own project further. If anything was unclear or you have questions, don't hesitate to drop a comment. I am always happy to help. Until next time, happy painting and I'll see you in the next one.